What's good, y'all? Patrick Armstrong, host of the show here. Longtime listeners of the podcast might be a little confused right now because normally in the intro to Monday's episode, our guest would be introducing themselves and sharing what they're drinking at the moment. Unfortunately, the device I used to record did not start recording until about 5 minutes into our conversation. The reason is still unknown to me. However, this conversation was too incredible not to put out. So, my guest today is Jenn Schimmelpfennig, the founder and CEO of Pivot Brands, an incredible company here in Indianapolis who have done a lot to shape the voice of Indianapolis over the last 2 decades. So we have a really incredible conversation. I'm not going to say any more than that. You have to listen for yourselves. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Jenn Schimmelpfennig. Well, I appreciate you making the time to sit down with me. I have heard many great things about you, and I feel like I've seen the work of your company Pivot all over the place, ubiquitous with Indianapolis. I read, as I was getting ready for this conversation, that one of your mentors was your dad.
Yes.
And that early on, he was kind of like coaching you up on business stuff, just asking you questions. One of the things that I saw was teaching you or talking to you about ethical decision making.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, what does that mean to you? What is ethical decision making?
Sure. Well, it's funny you mentioned my dad. We still go to lunch all the time and talk about business and life. And just did on Monday, we went to Daisy Bar. And
love Daisy Bar.
It was, I do too. It's so good. We were talking about not being very money motivated and how that's kind of challenging as a business owner. I mean, I've been in business 20 years, but it's the financial piece has always been sort of a afterthought,
Sure.
as little as, it shouldn't be, but it kind of is. And that is part of that ethical decision making. Do we take this on even if it isn't going to be hugely profitable? Or do we put ourselves out there in a way that might make us vulnerable because we're sharing our opinion or we're taking a stand on something? But it's all started with those drives and lunches with my dad where he would pose some ethical questions.
Do you remember any like the scenarios that he would pose to you? Like, was there one that was like foundational? It's like, oh, I can reference that whenever I'm approaching a decision for myself.
That's a good question. It was really more like he would tell me something that had happened at work that week. He was a car salesman.
Okay. Interesting. Ethical decision-making in car salesman. I feel like you don't hear that in the same sentence very often.
Yeah, and he was a stockbroker before that.
Okay.
So and in the 80s.
Interesting.
So some industries that would certainly challenge your ability to make ethical decisions and to stick to your convictions. So maybe he was wrestling with some things or seeing some things in his work. I don't know.
Sure.
That kind of ran counter to the way he naturally was. But yeah, he always kind of would just share with me, even at a young age. I think he also taught me that it's perfectly natural for a little girl to want to be a business leader or a business owner. I never really felt like that was unusual. I think just because he treated me like I had something to say about the way a business would be run or the way I would operate in the business world.
Sure. I feel like that is kind of a through line with your family a little bit because your grandma, I think, was a really incredible person too.
Oh my gosh, yes. His mom and both of my grandmas were incredible for different reasons. But my paternal grandmother was brilliant. She continued to read like a book a day until she was 95 years old, or until she passed away. And she joined the military when she was 17. So it was World War II. She had to have her dad sign off because she was under the age limit to become a WAVE. So that's what the female Navy, it was
Okay.
called. So she was a wave. And that's where she met my grandfather. He was a navigator on planes, and she would train the pilots. She would train them on flight simulators
Interesting.
in Florida. So they met in Florida
Awesome.
while he was in training,
Okay.
and she was training the pilots and navigators on the flight simulators. And the fact that she was in the Navy, and then she raised 3 boys, and in her 60s went back to school for computer science degree in the
Wild.
80s. I mean, she was ahead of her time. She
Yeah.
kept her maiden name as her middle name, which was unheard of too. She was an incredible woman.
Yeah. Well, I like that being ahead of your time, because I feel like ethical decision making in the work that your dad was doing, that's also ahead of his time. I feel like
Yes.
that's something nobody was thinking about back in the day.
And empathy was a huge part of it, and understanding being very open to other cultures, other places in the world. They, growing up, my dad and his 3 brothers, their parents kept a world map on the wall above the TV in the living room,
Okay.
so that when they were watching the nightly news, they could understand where that was happening in the world, and they would have conversations about that place in the world and what was going on. And so that goes right through to today.
Yeah.
And I think we could all use a little bit more of that understanding. And
For
it's
sure.
it's been really difficult. So when you say ethical decision making, I think the hard thing right now, for me anyway, and probably for a lot of people, is how to responsibly lead my business and stay focused on the business matters at hand, financials, clients, all the things, payroll, while also figuring out either how to carve out or integrate the time, efforts, and talent of myself and my team that we want to spend toward fighting fascism. I mean, basically, it's the ethical quandary I'm in right now is, how much does my core business matter, given everything that's going on in the world? Not to sound
You're definitely not
dystopian,
to this audience, for
but
sure.
yeah. But how do I do that responsibly?
Yeah.
How do I make sure I still am providing a place to work and make a good living, and for people to raise their families with their salaries and have a good balance, but also realize that that is a very small, narrow piece of what I could be contributing. It's important,
Sure.
but yeah, how do I divide my time? How do I divide myself?
Yeah.
Or how do I integrate those things so that through my business I could be like Indie Welcomes All was a good example of a
Yeah,
time when we were
okay.
able to do that as a team. So we didn't have to choose, do I spend my time fighting for something I believe in, or do I spend my time designing logos? In that case, in that, kind of one beautiful instance, they were both. It was all in one.
Sure.
And it was a great thing to be able to use the business for something that was so meaningful.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm thinking a lot about that.
Totally. Is that Indie Welcomes All campaign still like one of the top highlights of your work that you've been doing in the last 20 years?
It is. And
okay.
isn't it? It's not funny. It's not ha funny, but it's funny that we thought that was as bad as it was going to get. Like, I was just talking with someone about that.
Totally.
Like, we thought that was the height of, okay, if we can just stop this, we can, reverse the course of Indiana. We can, or, make sure we nip this in the bud, so to speak, or get this corrected.
Sure.
Get us back on a good track and let the world know that we're not a hateful people. And now here we are 10 years later. I feel in some ways like we peaked as a city, state, and nation in 2016, 2015. And we've been plateaued at best. And of late, much worse than just plateaued. So I've also been thinking about, and I know we were talking about legacy or what my contribution would be, what all of our contributions will be. And I think part of what I'm thinking about is, what does this place, Indy specifically, look like in 2050? And how do we rebuild one election, one leader, one little victory at a time? Because I think that's what it'll take. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen
en masse.
Like that.
No.
I think that is something I have been. I don't think that I'm wrestling with the expedient or the desire for expediency, but I see a lot of people wrestling with it. Like, why can't it just be better? Like, why isn't it just better? And I feel like when I see that, I've had to bite my tongue a little bit because I feel like that is a really privileged take, but I also don't know where people are coming from and why that might be their first in to feeling like, oh, well, if we could just fix it by tomorrow, like we would be good. And I don't think that people really realize, and especially coming into this conversation, knowing like your family and you doing so much with like just learning about history and being well versed on what's happening in the world, thinking about how if you look at history, things have not happened fast.
No.
Like a fast thing is, so I was adopted from Korea. A fast thing is a country ravaged by war going to hosting the Olympics in 30 years. That still takes 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's
a great example.
That is 6, 7 elections. And you're talking about, one politician, one elected official at a time. Like it does kind of take that a little bit.
Oh, I think there's a lot of pent up energy, desire, enthusiasm, talent that is ready to be unleashed under the right leadership. And that gives me a lot of hope.
Sure.
It's like, okay, I mean, even just locally, the right leadership, and I think we know what I'm talking about,
yep.
but would excite and re-energize so many people, and bring some people back too, who frankly have left because they couldn't get things done anymore. They were just tired of being so frustrated. So that gives me hope.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about redistricting before we hopped on mic, and that really gave me a lot of hope. I grew up in Indiana. My first election was when Obama got elected for the first time. Wow. And like that felt really hopeful. And then I feel like many people, millennials especially, just kind of stopped paying attention.
Yes.
And also turned or became unaware of like the terrible things that just happen in politics when we aren't engaged and been paying attention to what's happening. You talked about like if we had what would excite those people in particular is the right leadership. Something that I've been chatting with folks about has been, I feel like there's a lack of an apparatus across the Democratic Party in general, but especially here in Indiana, where we can like help steward folks who are interested in running for office or being more involved, and to actually like support them through a campaign in a predominantly red district. Somebody I'm thinking of right now is Victoria Martz. She's running in 487, I don't remember, a historically red district.
Sure.
But she's somebody that's really exciting me. And I'm like, where's the thing that's going to help her succeed, or at least see it through to the end and then beyond? Especially because you've helped with so much in Indy, just in telling that story. What, like, do you think it's possible for us to build something like that here?
I do, especially if we don't take it for granted. I think part of why the momentum didn't continue was that we were all, not all, that's an overstatement, but a lot of people were kind of arrogant and self-congratulatory about electing Obama, and I see it actually in the older generation too, when they talk about the civil rights movement. I think electing Obama was sort of our civil rights movement aren't we so evolved? Aren't we so progressive? Haven't we just solved all the world's problems? Like, good for us. And then there was a lot of complacency.
Yeah.
I was just like, great, we did it. And when I hear sometimes boomers talk about civil rights movement, they have sort of a similar narrative around it. Like, we solved it. Look how great we are. Like, and not recognizing all the work that was left to be done, how fragile it was. I think the success lies in not taking for granted great leaders.
Sure.
And supporting them beyond the election.
Right.
Showing up for them, continuing to fight alongside them and bring your talents to bear in their administrations, and not getting complacent,
Yeah.
not thinking it's just always going to continue. So I think branding has a role to play in that. I think it's like with Any Welcomes All or No Mean City or our work for Andrea Hunley, branding really is very powerful. It's manipulation at the end of the day.
Sure.
Um,
Can you, before we go,
Yeah,
can you
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about like what that manipulation is? Because I think people might hear that and maybe take it out of context,
Sure.
potentially.
Yeah.
And I have an idea of what it might be, but I'm interested in like what you mean by that.
Sure. I mean, it's in what we do, we have a deep understanding of psychology, what motivates people, how visual art impacts decision making, how language impacts decision making, pulling on certain memories, using certain imagery. It's a little bit of witchcraft, and when you really get down to it.
Sure.
And you can use that for good or not. And so manipulation isn't inherently positive or negative. Depends how you're using it.
Sure.
What you're deploying it for. And brand is all about what other people think
Sure.
of you. So if we can help to influence that for things we believe in and dispel any untruths, and even just get people to pay attention, that's a really big responsibility.
So you mentioned like empathy, compassion, like these inherently positive qualities that have been ingrained in your foundation through the people who raised you and the family and the environment you came up with, that now translate into how you operate and run your business. And I think like that's two things. I think that one, you mentioned earlier that thinking about like not being money mind or money focused or money driven, and thinking about how do you balance that in juxtaposition with like running a business, and part of like the money focus is to make sure you can provide for your staff and so they can do the thing. And you said it was a narrow view, and the one thing I want to do is challenge that, just because like I think it's honestly a wide view and a wide platform, because you're allowing people to be able to not only work and do the thing and sustain their family, but also see it modeled, what it looks like to like lead with those qualities, so that they can then maybe start doing that themselves and going out and touching the world in a way that people who just work for a company who don't operate that way won't. And so I think like when I think about that, the money part is less important, but it also, because you're doing it from an ethical place, like an ethical footing, like it allows people to then expand outward and reach more people potentially. The other thing is that I think there's so many businesses, so many people who don't start from that place. And I think it can be like their brand is not that, but their foundation, even before the branding aspect, is not that. I think people can start anew, but I'm interested in, as somebody who comes in and helps people with especially rebranding or thinking about how they're going to tell that story, for like companies and businesses right now, especially in this moment where I think it's really imperative that I don't think we're in a place anymore where we can say, oh, keep politics out of it. Like I think we've been well past that. For companies who aren't already moving from that place, how would you envision coming in and helping them to rebrand in a way that they can start moving and telling a story or operating their business in that way?
This is going to sound crazy, but I wouldn't.
Okay. Explain more.
So if from leadership, if from the very top, I don't get a sense that they really care about their people, that they are ethical, that they want balance for their team, if they are just in it to make a buck. Now, I can't say I've never gone and done that, but I've regretted it anytime I have.
Okay.
And so if I don't get the sense, not that the person across from me is perfect, but that they at least care about their people and that they're doing what they're doing for some reason other than just to make a buck, I'm not going to do it. Like I
Okay.
wouldn't advise.
Okay.
The more common, and most people are good.
Sure.
Most business leaders, I should say too, do care about their people.
Sure.
Most really care about the quality of what they're producing. They started a business because they want to add beauty and greatness to the world.
Totally.
That is, the case more often than not. So it's actually the exception that I would find somebody who's
Sure.
not. But so the problem though that we're usually brought in to fix can look a little different. It might be more that what they've created, their product itself is great, or their services, they have a great reputation, but they just aren't sure how to talk about themselves, or their look has not kept up with the quality of what they actually produce and offer, or they're trying to compete in a new echelon. So they've kind of gone from minor leagues to major leagues, but they don't look like they belong in the major leagues. Or they're just starting out and they have a really interesting concept and they want our help materializing that.
Okay.
So the problem statement is usually a little bit different. It's not a fix me.
Sure.
It's a help my brand reflect who we already are and our excellence and greatness. And that's a much better problem to solve.
Totally. And I like, because you mentioned like responsibility earlier, and I asked that question and I loved your answer because I think like we are not responsible for other people and how they are going to navigate. Like if somebody is not about it and you realize that, you don't have a responsibility to be like, oh, I'm going to work with you anyways because like this is the job. And I think a lot of people, because of living under capitalism, feel like they don't necessarily have a choice to do that. And I love what you said, like the grace you give to people, because most people are well-meaning.
Yeah.
We just live in a society that has prioritized the dollar over the person and the people that work to make the dollar. And so I think it's like, I appreciate you saying it, just because I use modeling a lot, just the word modeling a lot, because I feel like we just need models of people who are doing this or have that different perspective of just like, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. Well, and you have to believe too, as a business owner, that sounds very Pollyanna, but if you're doing the right thing, the dollars will follow. Or if you're demonstrating that you are actually listening to your customer, that you actually care, that you get them, that you understand them, that you really are there for them, the dollars will follow. So I think it's also just knowing your value, knowing that you're producing something that is worth it, whatever it is, and whatever you're producing. I think that the dollar will follow. So I guess part of what I mean by that is if you understand yourself very well, and that's part of what I help clients to do, is understand what it is that they have to offer, help them articulate that, help them deeply understand their customer, and connect with them on an individual level that just feels supernatural. Not supernatural, very natural.
But it may be supernatural.
It may be
in
supernatural.
The way that
it
you
may be totally magical. That people will invest and put their hard-earned money where they want to.
Yeah.
We have free will. You can put your money, for the most part, in this world where you want to and behind the brands that you believe in. So I think if I can help a client earn their customers' trust and be true to who they are and who their customer is, the dollars will follow. That's usually what we're doing. We're trying to also make whatever the core idea or offering is from our clients more beautiful, more interesting, more clever. Like, have a little fun with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be so serious. So
For sure. So you talked about when it felt like we peaked 2015. And then 2016 came around and it's like, slowly coming down. And then it's like, oh, and now we're in 2024 or 2026. Sorry. Forgot what year it was. And
I didn't even correct you because I thought it was the same thing.
It's like,
we're
all kind of on like this cliff's edge. But there are, I call it pinpricks of light that I see around. sometimes though, especially for somebody who has had such a like an outsized impact, I think, on the voice of Indianapolis, but also somebody who like, if you were to ask anybody from anywhere else, they would probably be like, "Oh, why are you here? Why don't you go to Chicago or L.A. or New York or somewhere, the bigger place to do the bigger thing and help the bigger brands?" You're still here, like, and you're
Yeah.
doing it here, and I love it. But I'm interested, like, what keeps you in Indy? Like, what is it about Indianapolis that like got you locked in here, at least for right now?
Sure. And for the foreseeable future,
Yeah.
or my whole future. So it was a choice. It was definitely a conscious choice. I started Pivot when I was 25. At that time, I was still considering maybe moving away to Chicago or New York, all the cities you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I love the Northwest. And when the opportunity came to start the business, I really had to say to myself, am I going to forego living elsewhere?
Mm,
Which felt like a very important thing to do as
sure.
part of my personal development, and just life experience. I felt like I needed to live elsewhere. I said, you know what? I don't know where else I would have a real shot at making a go of it at 25, of really
Okay.
starting a business. And this is the answer I always give, is that I don't know where else I could have started a business at 25 and been successful
Totally.
and still be sitting here today, 20 years later, with that same business, having impacted the voice of a city. I don't know that would have happened in a place that was more dense, crowded, maybe also more blue.
Sure.
I think there was more of a chance to make an impact here, make a difference, to have a unique voice and to elevate the standard for branding, than I would have had elsewhere,
Yeah.
and to be successful as a business. I'm also here because family's here. I mean, there are a lot of
Totally.
other reasons why it's a great place, for me, but ultimately it was the opportunity, and the opportunity to shape a whole city. And where else do you have that? I mean,
Totally.
yeah.
So almost 20 years. That means that was 2005-ish, 6-ish, 7-ish. So that is, I guess, right before Obama.
Yeah.
Did we've talked about grandmother ahead of her time, dad ahead of his time.
Mhm.
I feel like that decision ahead of its time. Do you feel like you saw where not only that you would be able to have that impact and like you could maybe maximize further here in Indianapolis, did you see kind of like the trajectory of the city and how you would play a role or how you could play a role in that?
Yes. And I've never put it together before, but sitting here right now, branding is my politics.
Mm.
That is how I've done it. I would never run for office. I say too many crazy things, and I don't know that I could rein it in or
Sure.
be diplomatic. I also don't love big cocktail party. Not for me. Anyway, I digress. But branding is my politics, and that is how I've worked to shape the city behind the scenes. Is by the clients I choose to take on, the work we put out there, the work we do for and with the government, for and with candidates. But really, even just for every single business, whether it's a brewery or, that all matters in terms of how we are perceived as a city, where we're
Totally.
headed, the level of quality and excellence we expect, and whether design is part of our DNA. I mean, all of those things. Branding is my politics. Like that is how I've looked at it. So I did see that from that time. I did see. At first, it was working with all nonprofits.
Okay.
And I thought that was going to be the way. We still have a lot of nonprofit clients. But as we evolved, I realized, no, to be truly impactful, I also need to be working with the for-profits. I need to be working
Sure.
with the government sector. I need to work with quasi-governmental. Like, all of those arenas are part of the ecosystem. And it's beyond Indianapolis too that we work, but
Yeah.
Our biggest impact has been here. And I think I also found other people to work for me and with me that believed the same thing. And that was really exciting. And it's something I'm thinking about as I think succession planning, and
Sure.
I'm 45, so hopefully this is the halfway point in my life.
Totally.
If I'm lucky. Hopefully it's also the halfway point for me in my business, but I don't want it to be the halfway point for my business. That's why I didn't name it after myself. I
Sure.
always saw it as an inflection point. That's why it's called Pivot. It should be an inflection point in our city, the way we view branding, the level at which we view ourselves and our place in the world. So I'm thinking a lot about legacy in terms of what will we contribute.
We've already contributed a lot. If you stopped right now, which I know you don't want to, you would have made an indelible mark on the city, and people would remember. I mean, even if they didn't know you specifically, they would know your work, and they would know what you've already done, whether they knew your name or not. Like, your legacy, I think, has already been cemented.
Well, that's very nice, because I'm very hard on myself.
I'm the same way, and I would never accept a similar compliment, but I'm going to give you the compliment because, like, it's this is not even the full list. I got to open this thing up, but like the Bottle Works, the Studs, First Two Butters, Elevate, Parks Alliance, Downtown Indy Alliance, Exodus Refugee. I saw you helped with some branding on that. Like, the list is endless, honestly. And again, like you said, I love that Pivot is Pivot because it doesn't mean it's like it's an inflection point. And like you said, like you started with nonprofits, and it's like, oh, well, we can pivot to more stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people, myself included, find the one thing to lock in on, and that's where I feel like the narrowness comes in. Mm-hmm. And what I appreciate about what you've been doing and what you've done is that the hallway it's not a hallway. It's a field. It is like you have, like, the horizon stretches here, east to west, north to south. Like, you don't see the end because you've created something that can, like you said, stand beyond any one person.
Yeah. And I like the word create because it's additive. I know that's a very, buzzy word right now, but it's I wanted to be in a field that was additive.
Sure.
And for example, Downtown Indy, you just mentioned, or Butter.
Yeah.
We've done Butter all for 4 years now. We're working on Butter LA. It's adding something to the culture. Downtown Indy Alliance, which we've just rebranded in the last year. I love the mark that the team created. I am so proud that is something we made. And it just feels really timeless. It makes people smile. It's so interesting, and it's like cute and serious at the same time. It's just this beautiful mark that I am so proud. And I didn't design it, but my team designed it. But I have so much pride in everything that my team creates. As my mom would say, I sit in meetings and I was busting my buttons, meaning I was just so proud my buttons were popping off, because I'm like, this was the dream. It wasn't that I create everything. I wanted to be an artist initially. I'm not that great as an artist. Like, it took me learning that and pivoting away from that too. But I wanted to build a team of people who were creating beautiful, thoughtful, clever, funny, interesting, thought-provoking work. Like, it is about the work for me and the visibility of the work, the contribution that the work makes. And, you might just look at it as a makeover when you look at Downtown Indy, but I want that to be a mark that is synonymous with the city, and people would wear just as like a lifestyle brand, or they would feel an affinity for. That's the way we looked at No Mean City. It's the way we look at Butter. It's just, brands become part of our identity. The best ones do. Yeah. Become part of our identity. And so what are we contributing, not just to the identity of the city, but to the identity of the individuals who embrace those brands and what they stand for? It's this big responsibility that. Man, I sound like a brand evangelist, and that is, or like a branding evangelist. I mean, I do love it. I still
love
it.
That's your politics,
that is the thing.
Too.
Even when I'm having a hard day, even when I'm like this, hate the financial aspect of this, or I had to make layoffs, like things that
Yeah.
are just so hard and shitty. I still come back to, I just really love branding. I
Mm.
love what we do. It is very satisfying.
Yeah.
And seeing my team do great things is the dream. Like that is so, and if I'm, looking down one day or wherever, you know, or I've turned into a butterfly and I'm like,
Sure.
whatever
Yeah,
happens
yeah,
after
yeah.
we're no longer here, that is the thing I want to continue to be happening. It's
Yeah.
like that the pivot school of branding is still putting a pinpoint of light, into the world.
Yeah.
That, or pinpoints of light. Like I like the way you said that. That's
Yeah.
what I want.
Something I did not write down, but something you made me think about when you were just talking right there, specifically around like indie brands. I love the Downtown Indie. Okay, full disclosure, I work for Downtown Indie now, so this is not an ad for Downtown Indie.
I didn't know.
So I was gonna say it was my favorite. It's my favorite indie specific logo right now because I feel like it's the both and of everything. Like it really is all encompassing. It can be a lot of things, and it could just be very simple. Like you wouldn't even think about it being indie. You could just be like, "That's a cool design. What does that mean?" And
Thank you.
um,
That's the goal.
yeah, you're welcome. Accomplished, at least for me. So I was having a conversation with a business owner here in the city. They've been here for a while, and we had a conversation about the hyper-localization that happens in Indianapolis.
Mm.
What I mean by hyper-localization is that like we kind of have sometimes maybe too much pride in being from Indy, and we can limit ourselves in terms of how we reach and how our message reaches other people, especially if they're not from here. Actually, especially if they're not from the city specifically, even if they're like come from rural Indiana, Northwest Indiana.
Yep.
And I was like, because when I started Conversation Piece, I was like, oh, I want to be all about Indianapolis. And like, I would say that a lot. And when I introduced guests, we're like, oh, they have a business here in Indy. And I was thinking about like my impact. And I'm like, have I contributed to the hyper-localization of businesses here? Because, like I said, it feels a little bit limiting in that some people want to be known as a great apparel brand. They don't want to be known as a small startup local brand in Indianapolis. Like there's a
Yes.
difference in the messaging. And so I bring this up because I would love your take on just that concept of hyper-localization, but also another compliment when it comes to the work that you do, even with the indie brands, like it's the multiplicity. It's the both and. It is the all of it, where it's not like a metazoa. Like it's not like, oh, we're Indiana's local brewing company. Like it's like, no, we're a brewer. And then like if
Yes.
people ask, oh, we just happen to be based in Indiana. But people are interested because we have a really cool design and branding that goes and now is in stores everywhere, like across the country or wherever, across the state at least. So like you're doing that work, and I've not really put those two things together until we've been sitting here having this conversation and realizing like I think the reason I like some of these businesses is because the branding that they've done, the message and the story that they've been telling isn't just Indiana. It is just like it's about the product, it's about the work, it's about the why. So thank you for doing that, and your team for doing that.
Yeah.
What do you think about like the concept of like hyper-localization? Is that like something that you try to stay away from when it
Yes.
comes to that? Okay.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm like, did you have a camera in our conference room? Or like, because you just hit on one of the things that I think is a secret to our success. And
Well, we can cut
Such
that
as
if you
it
don't
is.
want to. If you don't want to let the proprietary.
no,
know.
no, it's not proprietary. I just love that you picked up on it.
Yeah.
Our success, such as it is,
Yeah.
is everything we create, even if it's for a quote unquote local brand, needs to look national at the very least, if not global.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is it can have a local flavor, but the quality of execution, the quality and the aspirations of the strategy go way beyond this market.
Mm.
even if we've been working with Green Cycle Mulch for 16 years.
Okay.
And we created some TV spots for them years ago. And they were national quality. They're only ever seen on like social media. They're super fun spots.
Sure.
It wasn't like they were going to have a big run, but it was really important to us because we knew they had aspirations to grow. That also, if they ever wanted to be beyond this market, the message still translates. It wasn't dependent upon, I want to support local.
Sure.
Even though that's important, and I believe in that, but it shouldn't be the only reason someone's hiring you. You need to have more to offer than just, I'm down the street. It needs to be, you are excellent and you are down the street. You are the best bread around, or
Sure.
you bake the best whatever, and that's why people are showing up. It's not just enough to be local.
Sure.
And I think that's the way we look at ourselves too.
Yeah.
And it's really important to me that we're not seen as just capable of branding indie businesses.
Okay.
And also that indie businesses themselves aren't just indie businesses.
Right.
They are businesses.
Yeah.
That deserve national attention if they're doing something great.
Yeah.
So I think we see ourselves the way our clients see themselves. So Metazo is a great example.
Sure.
Dave and Lauren are incredible visionaries, marketers, branding people themselves, but they had a very deep why, and they continue to have a great why, which is the drink beer, help animals. And they give back to animals and animal charities, and that is the basis, and everything else builds from there. CP and Taylor at Downtown Indy.
Sure.
We were talking about ethical decision makers earlier, and indie champions and culture makers, they are tremendous examples of that. And they embody that. And so it was a joy to work with them on it. They also have great taste.
Yeah.
They also wanted it to be not just quote unquote, we do a lot of things here that are quote unquote good for indie.
Sure.
Like, oh, it's good for indie. That's not good enough.
So when I first started Conversation Piece, I was talking to a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs. And I was hearing a lot of rhetoric about Indiana being the home of the small business or the small business hub.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could see it and I agree. And I heard a lot about programs and stuff that were available to people to like help them go, which is good. And when I started to have this conversation about hyperlocalization, I'm like, is that like, are we like inadvertently like manipulating people into thinking like, oh, I can only be here and do it here?
Yeah, it's
like,
kind of limiting.
Yeah. Is that like, why do you think we do that?
It's a good question. I don't know if it's a lack of belief in ourselves or what it is, but I think there's good motivations. Just like we talked about earlier, I think
Sure.
people have good intentions
Yeah.
with that. They want people to know and recognize and support local businesses, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I think by telling a business, it's the same reason I've never been super involved in like organizations that are just for women in business.
Interesting.
I mean,
okay.
I am WBE certified. That's
Sure.
important. But that also felt limiting. Like she's doing well for a woman in business. That always felt limiting to me.
Yeah.
Why not have big aspirations? And you can also be a small business and do big things.
Sure.
So I think sometimes small business gets confused with small impact, and that is not necessarily the case.
I like that. Small business gets confused with small impact. Yeah, because I feel like you see people
outsized impact
all the time, especially in the age of the internet, be able to do something. I'm not necessarily talking about like an influencer or creator. I'm talking about somebody who like starts a clothing brand out of their garage.
Yeah.
And then can utilize the internet and good branding to reach not just the people down the street, but the people 5 countries away, an ocean away.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know, I've just been so interested. I did not think that I was going to talk about something like this today, but it makes a lot of sense because that's the work you've really been involved in, is how do we take the idea of Indianapolis and make it something that's ubiquitous with the idea of maybe not America, but just like people in general. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
Indy is a people-focused place. When I talk to the people that run in my circles, like, that is the through line, is that Indy is, like, made of good people,
Yes.
and that permeates
People
outwards.
who want to help, and you can get connected very quickly here.
Yes.
You can get involved very quickly. So again, I think having a great change or a great local leader, great local leadership will just activate that
Yeah,
even more,
totally.
reactivate it.
Fingers crossed for this year. Okay, so we've been mentioning legacy a little bit, and I'm going to continue to pay you compliments. But I was
Awkward.
reading that when you first started Pivot, like, or when I think you were working at another place and left, like, to form Pivot out of that. But I also read that you were like, it felt like a calling to step
Yes.
into that. So I'm wondering, when you think about, like, your journey now, entering year 20, do you hear the same call still, or do you think, or is there something else, something different that's calling to you?
Oh. You've caught me at a very reflective time. It still calls to me. I think I also see how I can maybe help the next
Sure.
generation of people at Pivot avoid some of the mistakes maybe that I made.
Okay.
Small example of this. So like I also see myself called to do is to get out of my own way a little bit more, or get out of the way of my team, so that we can scale not in size but in what we're able to contribute
Sure.
as a team. So mentoring has become more of a focus for me.
Yeah.
And just setting a good example of like
Yeah.
having more balance, making sure I work out in the morning, like things that have balance. I also feel called to figure out what my what cause I'm really going to put my efforts behind going forward,
Okay.
just outside
Sure.
of work, or
Yeah.
maybe tied into work. But like immigrant rights is a big one for me, as is infertility, and letting young women know what some realities are
Yeah.
of IVF, of other, and part of the reason I think a lot about legacy or contribution is that I wasn't able to have children, and my husband and I tried, everything, including IVF. I was only 36, I think, at the time, 36 or 37 when we went through IVF. So not that old, not
Sure.
at a point where you would think you would have trouble. But it's actually pretty common to have egg deterioration at that point in your life and not be able to have a viable embryo or to have viable eggs. So part of what I've been thinking about is, what does my legacy look like not having children? And maybe that's why I'm so obsessed with contributing in other ways. But I think what I'm realizing is part of that contribution can be letting young women know that if they want to have children at some point, to freeze their eggs, if it's an option for them.
Sure.
I realize it's expensive. I realize it's a whole journey on its own. And the political environment makes it complicated in other ways too. But if I could go back and give advice to my 20-year-old self, it would have been, you're very driven. You have a different boyfriend every every few months. So it might take you a while to find, the
Yeah.
right guy. And you're going to probably just focus on your calling for a long time. And that calling for a while is not going to be to have children.
Sure.
Yet. So freeze your eggs, because it won't be your body. It won't be that you won't be able to physically carry a child. It will be that your eggs will deteriorate.
Yeah.
And there's no escaping that yet. There's nothing that you can do really other than, because no matter how fit you are,
Sure.
there's just, I don't know how much you know about fertility, but
Yeah.
Or infertility, but that would be my part of what I'm thinking about too. What's calling to me,
Yeah.
besides, continuing to build a great branding agency and leave my branding as politics,
Yeah.
in good shape, and seeing that continue. It's also helping young women to, as like Tiffany Sauter would say, live a life of and, like
Yeah.
if they want to,
Totally.
even if they think they want to,
Yeah.
just so they don't have to settle for the wrong relationship
Sure.
or feel like they need to get pregnant really early, and then it's actually at a time when they would rather be involved in their career,
Sure.
So that's part of what's calling to me.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. So as an adoptee, as I entered into the community, which is only the last 5 years because I struggle with my identity. If you listen to the show, you probably know a lot about that. But anyways, like one of the things that I learned about, not a lot, but like became more aware of and a little bit more informed on is infertility and IVF, because a lot of people who end up adopting do it because they're not able to bear children of their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I currently have some friends who have been going through it, and like I did not realize, like, one, that it is a common thing, like more common than a lot of people realize.
Way more common.
But two, like it's hard. Like it's hard on people, and I could not imagine like that situation, like going through that situation and having to deal with like the emotional weight and not just the physical, but literally that mental aspect of going through the treatments. And I feel like it is, for how common it can be, people don't talk about it.
No, and they don't talk about when it doesn't work.
That part. Because exactly, we see a lot of the successes and we like the videos and share those things, but rarely do we talk about what happens when we don't see success. And I appreciate you being willing to step into that, because that's like, I think the act of wanting to become a parent or have a child in any form or fashion and like the journey of that is one of the most vulnerable things you could possibly share. And I don't blame anybody for being like, I don't want to talk about this at all.
Sure.
And I think it behooves us as a society to unfortunately have folks who have had those experiences be able to talk about it, and for us to like support them in the telling. So that way we better know and we can better support. And it's not like stigmatized. I'm assuming that it's a stigma to not succeed through IVF.
Yeah, well, and you never think you're going to have trouble getting pregnant.
Sure.
I mean,
Is
all
it
you're
like
ever,
marketed that way? Like you just like, come do IVF and you'll be good.
in some ways.
Okay.
I think just even from when you're 16 years old.
Sure.
I
Sure.
mean,
Sure.
and it's you can be like, oh, you'll get pregnant, just whatever. First time you'll get pregnant.
Sure.
And the reality is, for a lot of people, it is not easy to get pregnant at any age, at any point. And people don't really talk about that much.
For sure.
So I do want to destigmatize it, and also just let other young women know that I'm there to talk about it if they want to talk about it. They're going through it, and just what I wish I would have known.
Yeah.
So.
Is that like, I'm going to go to conferences and speak? What does that work look like for you? I mean, and maybe you don't know yet, but.
So far it's been more one-on-one.
Okay. Yeah.
It's been just being open with it in forums like this.
Sure.
And then talking with young women. And they feel like it's a safe thing to talk about with me.
Yeah. Well, it's rare. I feel like, unfortunately rare, to feel that safety. And then to like have it reaffirmed and reinforced over time. Because I feel like a lot of people, I hate speaking of hyperbole, I feel like there are people out there who use the in of a vulnerable situation to extract and then leave. Yeah. Even if that's maybe not even what they realize that they're doing. Like, people will, like advocacy especially, people will be like, oh yeah, I'm open to talk to you whenever. And I'm guilty of this in the past as well, of being like, I make myself available and then I'm not available. And people don't feel safe to have that conversation because it's like, you said this, but then when I try to talk to you about it, it's like, oh, you don't have time. Yeah. And maybe I might not actually have time. And like, there are steps that I could take to mitigate like people feeling unsafe when that situation comes about.
Yeah, and I don't want to talk about it all the time
100%.
either.
Well, because again, it's
vulnerable
hard. Thing. It's
very emotional.
Exactly.
It's been a few years, so that helps.
Sure.
Right, that's the only way I'm able to talk about it, is because it's been a minute.
Well, I was just at a conference in November, or I spoke on a panel, and one of the panelists said, I encourage people to never talk about publicly something they haven't processed privately. And
Yeah.
I feel like a
Yes.
lot of people, myself included, like when I started my identity journey, what really I felt like helped me the most was talking about it out loud. And that's
Mm.
one of the reasons I started podcasting, like, and got really involved or active on social media. It was just like that. It just felt like for a long time I didn't have a voice. And then
Yeah.
I found the voice, and then I was processing and at the same time speaking my process into the world. And that was good in some ways and also detrimental in other ways.
Well, you're still very raw.
100%.
I
There is
was
no
too
reflection.
angry, and
Yeah.
I was too yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
that wouldn't have been good.
But I feel like a lot of people wouldn't, because of the anger. Like that's a reactive emotion a lot of times, and like there's a lot of righteous anger for sure. And I think like sometimes anger, and again speaking from personal experience, pushed me into being like speaking it into the world, because I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
need to say the thing, and then like 4 weeks later I'll be like, did I need to say that?
Oh, I totally get it, and that's why freeze your eggs has become my
Sure.
If I say nothing else, that's my freeze your eggs if you can. That's
Well,
how
that's a
I
good
deal
end.
with it.
Yeah. and then like, but it's like an actionable thing, and it doesn't have to go too deep into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like we don't have to have a long conversation. Just if you take nothing else away from this,
I
invest in your brand and freeze your eggs.
Invest in your brand, freeze your eggs. Jenn, I appreciate you giving me this time. We've already
Sure.
had an hour, but I have a few more questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. I've got time.
I want to keep on this. Okay, wait. Never mind. I thought I was going to ask you these two other questions about legacy,
okay.
but we talked about it, because I wanted to ask you, like, what do you want to do, or what's something that you'd like to do? But we talked about it, like
Yeah.
the things that you want to talk about now. Then I was like, what do you need, or what do you have to do? But I think all of those things are kind of the same.
They are.
Yeah, I think it's like at least to me, extremely important to like be having these conversations, whether they be one on one or if maybe take a larger scope in the future. But it's like something that we need to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think at my core, I'm a gardener, which I've been thinking about. What does that have to do with anything, and why is that? I like to improve my little slice of earth,
For sure.
and I think improving my little slice of earth is what I'm doing in each area, or trying to do, and sometimes failing, but trying to improve my little slice of earth is what I do.
I love it. I just had a conversation with my wife about, we're talking about how do we de-stress, and
Yeah.
because like especially with teething baby,
Yes.
it's just like inadvertently, inevitably causing stress in the household. And I shared that I like in the last 6 months, something I've really been trying to do when I'm feeling myself reacting or reactive, or in that like heightened stress emotional state, is to remind myself that at the end of the day, there's a lot of external that's out of my control.
Yeah.
And if I can be aware of that, and aware of like what is outside my control, I can focus or at least shift my focus back to the things that are in my control.
Mhm.
And that's like a grounding thing. And so like you
Yes.
talk about gardening, like when you said like, what does that have to do with it? I'm like, oh, I know exactly what it has to do with it. You're cultivating, you're growing, but you're doing these things that are within your control, even though like you can't control the weather, you can't control certain
Right.
other things.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
there's aspects of it that you have control over, and just being able to do those things, I think for me, is that grounding moment that kind of brings me back to earth, for lack of a better pun.
Yes, and it the trees don't care about everything that's going on in the world. I mean, some things maybe they care about, but I don't know
Yeah.
what the trees are thinking. But it's very reassuring also to be in the garden and be like, well, this is just another cycle. It's going to come back around again, and the daffodils will come up again next spring, and there might be a few surprises, but it's pretty much, it's on its own terms, and it's very humbling, and I like all that about it. So
I love it. I don't really have anything else. we're gonna wrap it up.
Thank you.
But
This was great.
I really appreciate you. You said fascism in the first 10 seconds, and I was like, this is my person. This is my people right here. I will ask you one final question, though, just for everybody's edification. What's the best way to support you right now? What's the best way to support Pivot? Or what do you want us to do to help and support you going forward?
Make sure our city's in a good shape. Elect the right people. That'll help us.
Right people. Be ready for that announcement in early spring.
Yes.
Jen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shout out to Jen. Incredible human being. And stuff in the world right now is shitty. And I think the thing that I've taken away most from, and the thing that I'm trying to hold on to the most from my conversation with Jen, is just this idea that there are little dots of light, little pillars of light around. And if we can hang on to those things, identify them, find them, rally around and support them, amplify them, lift them up, I think we'll be okay. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be fun, but I think we'll be okay. Shout out to Daniel Farrell again. He is quickly becoming the ultimate connector in my world, at least. Awesome dude. Still got to meet in person. Busy life. But yeah, I am about to be pretty busy with stuff. The live shows for Conversation Piece are about to pick up. I've got a lot of work at work, which is awesome and fun and creatively challenging. And I am still planning to do the morning show because I have time in my schedule built in to do it. And I might be taking a little bit of a hiatus in February or maybe starting in March. We'll see. We will see what happens. But just wanted to give you that heads up. I've had a lot of fun doing the morning show. I want to keep doing the morning show if I can. Would love if somebody had the dollars to pay me to do the morning show. So if you're listening out there and you're interested in keeping that going and you got the dollars, we could probably figure something out. Just saying. But yeah, that doesn't mean that this show's going away. Doesn't mean that the writing stops. Doesn't mean that the work stops. The work continues. So catch me wherever you see me outside here in the city of Indianapolis. Stay safe out there. And until tomorrow.